Welcome to the Online Boutiquers Podcast. We're here to help you own your brilliance and then package it up and sell it in boutique. Here on the podcast, we talk all about traffic, marketing, and our favorite, boutiquing. I'm your host, Akila Thompkins-Robinson, and let's get started with this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Online Boutiquers Podcast. Before we jump into today's episode talking about all the ways I run my business on just a few hours a day, really just a few hours a week, and I don't work 7 days a week, I wanted to make a really big announcement. So if you listen to episode, I think 27, 28, where I talked about Kickstarter, and I'll put the link in the show notes. You know that I'm working on a book. My SEO Workbook is the book that I've been working on, all about how to get traffic, how to learn SEO, and different than some of your other how-to books, where this one is actually a get-it-done book. So, you know, we've got exercises, we've got journal prompts, we've got planners, got all of these things to help you really understand SEO, learn SEO, and most importantly, get that traffic that you deserve from the search engine. So I'm really happy to announce that if you're listening to this in September, that the Kickstarter campaign for the book has launched. So the Kickstarter campaign is up and going. If you go to myseoworkbook.com, it'll take you right there to the Kickstarter. You can see how we're doing with our backers, how we're doing with our rewards. Got a lot of really great rewards for you guys. In addition to the book, of course, there's some other really great things that you can grab. And so if you're listening in September, then head on over there now, because the Kickstarter is going right now and you've got a chance to grab all of those great things. If you're listening after September, don't worry. You can still go to myseoworkbook.com and it'll take you to where, in October, it won't be available because we'll be shipping out our rewards, but in November, December timeframe, it should be available to the public. So if you head on over there, you'll get the latest and greatest of where we are, but hopefully you're listening to this now and you can go check out the Kickstarter and get, like I said, those great rewards and get it for the best price you'll see it at, and all the other good stuff. So I'm super excited about that. If you're listening to this and you've already seen it, and you've shared or commented or just cheered me on, thank you. I truly appreciate that. So I want to make that huge announcement before I jumped into this week's episode. Now, I'm really excited about this week's episode because it's one of those here's what I do type of episodes. A lot of people always say, you know, how do you do it all? How do you get it done? Like, you're a mom, you're a wife, you work, you have the business, you have the podcast, you have the baby, like, who's now a toddler, right? Not really a baby anymore, but we call him baby. But, you know, how do you get all of these things done? And I know no matter what type of business you have, what industry you're in, this is one of the things that women and men struggle with, just how to make the time. How do you get it all done? How do you produce at a rate that's actually going to become profitable, which is, you know, the most important. A lot of us are doing this here, doing this there, but if it's not consistent, it doesn't all pull together, then you're still not seeing the profit from it. And it's kind of counterintuitive because we do this because we want the freedom lifestyle, but you have to work really hard to get to the freedom part. I always quote, or really misquote, because I always forget the way exactly he says it, Pat Flint's intro or older intro, where he used to say, you know, work a few years now, how nobody would, so you can live the life that other people, nobody could, or something like that. He says it much better in the intro, but you get the point. You do a lot of work right now so that you get to a level that most people will never experience. And not because they don't do the work, they just don't experience it, which is cool. But this is the life that we have chosen and the life that we really want to live. And so, you know, there's a couple of things that you can do to help get there faster, make it easier. And I wanted to share with you guys, I've got 6 things that I do that help me, like I said, in the title, run my business in really just a few hours a day. I do most of my work in the evenings. I do these big chunks some weekends, most weekends really. I try, but I try to really run my business in a very fluid way that allows me to have the freedom of the lifestyle that I want. And one of the reasons why, and I tell people this all the time, they're like, well, I need more time, or, oh, I've got to quit my job so I have more time to work on my business. And I always go back to, what are your goals in the business? If your goal is to have more time and work less and be more free, then quitting to do more business really sounds like you're just quitting to make another job. And I've always been very intentional that I didn't want my business to feel like another job. It's not just, I love what I do. So it's not just the boss part or the coworkers part. The commute is crazy. That I can definitely do away with. But it's like, I really wanted a lifestyle and a business that kind of flows and doesn't feel like it's a push. And when you set up your business in a way that you're forever working, and working super hard, then it starts to feel like another job, no matter who your boss is, whether you're the boss or someone else is the boss, it still feels like a job. It still feels like something you always have to get up and do and work really, really hard for. So my goal with my business has been not to do that. And my goal with this episode is to share with you some of the ways that I try to make that not happen and make sure that I don't do that type of stuff. So first one on my list is planning and scheduling. And I know you're like, Killa, everybody plans and schedules. That's like, the thing. And some of these, I'm going to give you my reasoning behind them. They may sound like something you've heard, but again, this is how I do it and how I do it a little bit different. So first thing, planning and scheduling. I've got super amount of calendars. And so I am very intentional about my planning and scheduling of everything I do. So when I'm taking on a new project or taking on a new thing, I make sure that I plan it out. Like I sit down, I'm a PMP certified, so project manager by I guess trade or education. So, I sit down and say, well, what are the things that I'm going to need to do to get to this point what I need to get? So, for example, with the Kickstarter, what do I need to research? When do I need to have videos done? When do I need to have ads done? When do I need to have PR done? And even if I don't have it all figured out, I'll still put it down because, it's a question. I know it's going to need it. I know it's going to need some time. So I don't wait until the last minute or do things like wake up and just say, oh, I'm going to start working on this. Even when I come up with a new bright idea, my first thing that I do from new bright idea, which I have a lot of, is to start putting down a list of what is it going to take. I am the queen of things to do list, and looking at the old ones and moving them over to the next one. I'm the queen of things to do list. I'm also scheduling just in my calendar. Like, really, if you're not in my calendar, it's probably not going to happen. Not just because I'm like a calendar fanatic, but also I forget. So I tell people all the time, make sure I put it in my calendar or make sure it gets on my calendar. So for business and for clients and stuff like that, I use Acuity. I use Acuity for my scheduling system, and that way people can go in and schedule. I also don't have like an open book calendar. So I have certain days that I do, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll do one-on-one sessions. I have certain days like Tuesdays and Thursdays that I will open up for podcast interviews or even podcasting. So I have certain days that I do different things. And part of the reason for that is A, so I can schedule it. B, so I can stay in the zone. You'll hear me say that a lot. I want to stay in the zone. So if I'm working with clients, I'd rather work with clients all day as opposed to one each day, which really takes me out of the zone from content writing or hanging out with the family or whatever that day zone is. It takes me out of that zone and puts me into, now I got to show for a client. I'm better if I do things kind of all in the same day. And we'll talk about time blocks. It's actually number 2. So we'll talk about time blocks. So I'm better if I do it that way. So when I schedule that way. Also, I schedule that way so I can schedule other things outside of my business. So I don't just schedule my business. I'm in a sorority. I'm very active in my sorority. So I already know if I run a mastermind and that mastermind meets on Thursdays, I can tell people, okay, I can't can't do meetings for you guys on Thursdays. Or if the opposite, I know our chapter meetings are on the second Saturday, so I don't schedule things on the second Saturday. So having a schedule that's not just schedule your business, but I schedule all the little things lets me really know when I'm available and not get stressed out about having to find time. So for a regular calendar, I use Google Calendars. And when scheduling with people, I use Acuity, which links to my Google Calendar. So I love it because it looks at my Google Calendar and says, hey, there's no availability here, and closes out those appointments. So my hair appointment, you guys know my hair appointments are really important. So my hair appointment gets put on the calendar, and then, even if it was a client day, it's now a hair day for that particular day. And when somebody goes to schedule, then they know. And I only keep my schedule open. People can only schedule within 3 weeks. So I'm not 10 months down the road, like, oh no, I've got a meeting I forgot about. I hate that. So planning and scheduling, as you can hear, is really, really important to me. I break everything down. I make sure everything is on a calendar. And I do a lot in the planning, scheduling sense of what I do. The other really important thing, so number 2, is time block. So I kind of talked a little bit about this with the planning and scheduling, but I try to block out what I'm going to do. I try to make sure, and with it I do batching too, so I'm not going to make them 2 separate things, but time blocks and batching. But I try to do a couple of podcasts at the same time, a couple of blog posts at the same time, work with clients at the same time. In my private membership groups, I have like office hours on Wednesdays for my vault members, and I'll have office hours for my SEO members. So I have a specific day. And now, granted, people can ask questions any day, but I have a specific day that I clear out my time and clear out things just to know that, like, this is what I'm going to work on. Again, a lot of it's to help me keep in that zone. Being in the zone is really important. Even if you're not running a super creative business, but just to kind of keep your mind clear and fresh and on what it is that you're working on. So I time block things. I even time block things for my son. So I have certain times that I know, like, he'll be watching TV, he'll be able to play with this, he'll be doing things he doesn't know about these time blocks, but I know about them. And, even when now, we've got little play groups and time with my late mom's crew folks. And so I know certain days that I don't schedule things because something might happen where I do something with them. So they're time blocked into that day. Now, mind you, people, like I said, if something doesn't happen, so say we say Friday's that day and we don't go out that Friday, I might do something else with my business. Cool. But the primary part for that day is that time block. So I apply time block. Next thing I do is take shortcuts. Now, I know a lot of people make it feel like you've got to do everything in your business. You've got to do it yourself. And, it's almost like you've got to make everything from scratch. We make businesses feel like artisans and like creators. Like, you've got to make everything from scratch, or it's not real, or it's not authentic. That is not true. What the point is, and the most important part of the business is getting it done and making sure that you get your clients a really good result. So if you aren't baking from scratch, it's okay to use a recipe or use a mix. And I use tools that are considered like shortcuts to help me do some of those things. So first thing is, sometimes I'll use templates, especially for graphics, for design stuff, even like the layout of the book and stuff like that. I use templates. I use places like Creative Market is amazing. I love, love, love creativemarket.com, and I'll put this link in the show notes too. Creativemarket.com. I use them to go and get templates. They have all kinds of social media templates, Instagram templates. They have stock photos, fonts, and literally stuff could be like between like $5 to maybe $15, $20 for these templates, and then you can just continue to use them. Places like Canva, like now. Canva, I love Canva. It's getting a little bit oversaturated, so I try to buy a template on Creative Market and put it in Canva. But using stuff like that, like, there's nothing that says, especially if that's not your core business. So if you're not a graphic designer, You don't have to design all of your graphics. Like, there's nothing that says, oh, you have to design all your graphics. Even blogging. If you're not a writer, so if you're not selling writing services, then you can have other people write some blog posts. You can give them the topics and, proofread and stuff, but have them do, the kind of the bulk of the work. Do the research. Nothing says you have to do all of the research. So use some shortcuts, whether it be a person or systems, and we'll talk about people too, be a person or systems or something to give you like the shortcuts. You don't have to do it all yourself. So I definitely, like I said, I use templates. I love them. And different types of templates, writing templates, graphic templates. I try to use things that are templates. Tools. I spend probably a little extra in tools that I use because, again, they help me to run a better business. And that's really the end of the day. I know, again, everybody tries to do everything themselves. Before I started using Acuity, and Acuity isn't my first scheduling system. I went through a couple. But before I started using a scheduling system, it was horrible. Horrible. And the crazy thing is I did more one-on-one clients then, but it was the email. Hey, are you free this time? Wait, by the time they answer, wait, that time has now been taken. Oh, wait, now when they answer, it was back and forth. It was a mess. So I stopped doing that. I stopped, using something. I stopped doing it all myself. I use a tool to help that shortcut, make it a lot easier for me. Even in communicating with my team, as the team started to grow, I put it all in Slack. So that way we're not going through messages, emails, did you get all the stuff? Just kind of, again, using tools to make a shortcut. Another tool that I use, and I'm actually going to use it to make a transcript of this episode. So another tool that I use that I love is Rev.com. And Rev is one of the sponsors for the show. And we have a code for them. Go to onlineboutiquesource.com/Rev, REV. And that is my transcription service. Now, I love, love, love them. Not just because they're sponsors, but I love them because it makes it so much easier to write. Because I do write quite a bit. It's important that, I've got all that stuff written out. And when I say write, I write in terms of I produce content. I am not a writer. Not a writer at all. What I do is I talk. I am a talker. You guys know that by now. So I'm a talker. I talk it out and then I send it over to Rev for $1 a minute and they transcribe it for me. And I'm able to now use it to put up my blog posts, use it to put up my social media posts, use it for show notes for this. So whatever I need for the book, half the book was from just transcription. So all of that stuff, I had my content and my questions. I answered them. So it'll sound like me in your head when you read the book. I'm really excited about that part too, because it is actually me talking and I had it transcribed and then, I go in and clean it up. And the other good thing is because of the way I do Rev.com, I don't even always have to be the person to go in and clean it up. I could easily just give it, because it is me talking, I could just go in and give it to my VA or give it to someone else. So as you grow your team, some of these shortcuts will help you to even make things even faster for you, where you don't even have to be involved on the even cleanup end of it. You could have somebody go clean it up, make sure it sounds good, and upload it. It is your word, so you did do the work, right? So, like I said, this is how I make things a lot easier for me, and I'm able to put it into a couple of hours a day as opposed to every single time doing stuff. So shortcuts. And then that gets into my next point of getting help. So number 4 is getting help in your business. Especially in the beginning, we are very, very resistant to getting help. All we see are the cost. All we see are the time. What's it going to take? Very, very resistant to getting help. And I want to really almost beg you guys, don't resist getting help. Getting help is probably one of the best things that I've done. And I'll tell you, I'm a bit of a control freak. When it comes to things, I like things done a certain way. I like them done this way. So, it was hard for me to bring on help, to even keep help. I've gone through so many VAs. It's kind of crazy. It was hard. Like, I'm sure most people have a difficulty with that. But what I did was first start small. So started with one VA. Now I have a VA and an intern who's about to become another VA full-time with us, or ongoing with us. I'm not going to say full-time. But, starting out very, very small, giving smaller tasks. So giving one task at a time, two tasks at a time. The other thing I've done is work with different services. So don't feel like, okay, I'm not ready for an ongoing person, but I've got a launch coming up or I've got a new product coming up. Let me go and get some help. Now, I like professional help, meaning like for the Kickstarter, I brought on someone who does, you guys know Jasmine Powers, who works on public relations. She does PR work. So that is professional help. So you're going to pay more for that and bring in a professional person, but she's doing it one time. So we're doing it for this particular campaign. I'm not hiring a PR person for the length of my business. I can do things one time. I've also done things like use services like 99 Designs, who designed the book cover, because I had another graphic person working on it. Wasn't really gelling with exactly what I wanted. And so I said, okay, let me try this one-time service and see if they can do something that I like. And they did, and I got it from there. Fiverr, and I know somebody's going to drag me to the mud. Don't tell people to use Fiverr. I'm not telling you to always use Fiverr. I'm not telling you that Fiverr is a way of doing your business, but if you've got a big event and you need a flyer and you've only got about $20, you can get a good $20 design on Fiverr. Now, again, and I say $20 on Fiverr because don't think everything's $5. The good stuff is a little bit more than $5. And they have pros on there too. So I could pay like $100, $200 for it and get like they have a pro level of service. So don't feel like you have to hire somebody long term if that's just not where your business is. But you can I would rather you put $20, $30 into getting some help before you put $20, $30 into Facebook ads, because a lot of people are running Facebook ads and their businesses just aren't there. They just don't have any of the bandwidth, and that they don't have the structure. They don't have good graphics. They don't have their site's not up. Like all this stuff is just wrong. So spend more money on people first before you start spending money on things, because you need to get those things done and maybe some people can help you. So Fiverr's one that I use. Upwork's another one I use especially for like, again, short term or finite projects. Like if I know I need something done for 3 months, I'm going to go to Upwork and find someone who can do this for 3 months. If I know I need someone to do something that's not a pro service. So again, if I needed like a website done, I'm going to get a web designer. If I need PR done, I'm going to get a PR person. But if I need some proofreading or just kind of making sure there's no errors, if I need a bunch of social media posts set up and scheduled that I create, but need them just scheduled for 3 months, I'm going to go get some help. Take some of that money you might have spent other places and put it to getting even just a little bit of help, even if it's just for a short period of time. So, be okay hiring a small team, you getting people one-off, so it doesn't have to be all the time if you need them, and using them to help some of the shortcuts. So like I said about the post, I can do a whole bunch of posts and then I can send that transcription and tell my person to clean it up and make that into blog posts. Number 5, and this is really important for me. Some of you guys may or may not know, I'm a Virgo. And what that means, especially in this Virgo season, is that I am very critical and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I have to really dial back on even my criticism of myself, because we're self-critics too. So one of the number 5 is editing and grace. And what I mean by that is not editing like proofreading, copy, editing words, editing your life and editing your schedule and editing even your expectations of what you're going to get done in your business. I try to focus on only 1 or 2 major things at a time. So my main goal is like right now, the book and the Kickstarter and my current clients. I'm not trying to sell, my regular membership, my retailer's membership. I'm not trying to fill a mastermind, kind of course, and write a book and still have my regular clients. I have to understand that I just can't do it all. I definitely just can't do it all well. So I focus on the things that I know need to get done right now, because once it's done, then I'll already have that done. That'll be, kind of in the bag. And now I can move on to the next thing. So instead of trying to do everything at one time, I saw somebody the other day mention, seven streams of income, how millionaires say they have seven streams of income, but they didn't build them all at one time. And that is such a profound statement that although people, you read and hear multiple streams of income, seven streams of income, blah, 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 you don't have to, and you should not build them all at one time. Usually one builds on top of the other, but that's another story, another podcast for that. But don't feel like, oh, if I don't do it all right now, it'll never get done. What I'm going to tell you is that if you try to do it all right now, you'll never get to the end of getting any of those pieces done because you're always going to be flipping back and forth. So you're better off, like I said, editing your schedule, editing your expectations, being okay. So I said editing and grace because being okay where something might move from yesterday's things to do list to tomorrow's things to do list, or something just might have to slip a little bit, or maybe, and this has happened with me, my last two launches, that, I didn't get out all the pre-promo that I wanted to get out. Like I wanted videos, I wanted this, I wanted that, but we were, working on other stuff. I was traveling and I just didn't get out all of the pre-promotion that I wanted. And I had to, be graceful with myself. Don't be mad at yourself for not getting something done or knocking yourself. Always think, move forward. Don't dwell on your past of what you're doing. What do I need to do next? Because the fact of the matter is, whatever was done or not done in the past is there. That's set. There's nothing you can do to change that. But what you can do is say, okay, we're on today. I maybe didn't do as many pre-promotional videos I wanted to do, or I maybe didn't jump on live as many times as I wanted to jump on live last week. But today, what am I going to do the next 7 days? What am I going to do the next month to continue the momentum that I need to get? Or even, I'm not going to say make up for, but where am I going to pick up and take off with now? Because trying to make up for things doesn't help either, because that's just packing more into a schedule that's already packed. That's not right. Don't do that, guys. What you're better off doing is just editing, adjusting, and saying, okay, this is what we're going to get done. You're not going to make up any more imaginary time, which is kind of going to go into my number 6. So, just being okay with that, being okay to edit, being okay to focus, and giving yourself some grace. You'll spend more time stressing and beating yourself up and not getting any of the work done. And that a lot of times leads to people getting, not necessarily analysis paralysis, but almost working paralysis or doing paralysis, where it's like nothing's getting done, nothing's ever getting finished, and so they just stop doing altogether. I just can't. I get this all the time with some of my members who are just like, there's just so much going on, so I just stopped doing everything. And I'm like, well, that didn't help. Stop doing everything doesn't help you get anything done. So it's better if you just set your expectations, just go for one thing to do per day, 2 things to do per day, and move forward from that. Number 6 is actually more of a don't as opposed to a do. So number 6, and this is something I'm going to tell you, if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I probably would have gave you a different answer. This would have been a do 5 years ago. But now that I'm older, some of you guys know I just turned 40. This is now a don't for me. Don't depend on creating extra time. So here's what I mean by that. And especially again, as I get older, 10, 15 years ago, I could do an all-nighter and bang out a website in, literally an all-night time frame, just me and some music, and I would have it done. Now, I'm tired. So when I'm thinking of, I laugh at myself when I'm tired. I really am. But now I'm tired. I do actually need to go to sleep. I don't perform as well as I used to. So when I'm thinking of my timelines, I don't think, oh, I can get this done if I pull an all-nighter. Don't try to create that extra time. I've heard moms say, I can get this done while my son's at practice. I'll sit in the car and get this done. It's like, is that really going to happen? By the time you get your kids settled, by the time they finish the practice, you may or may not have other things to do. Yes, bring your laptop. You might get something done, but don't try to, like when we talk about the time blocks, don't try to overlap those time blocks with other things that are supposed to be there. So I don't put a time block in the middle of time that I'd normally be sleeping. Now, if I make it all night and I'm up and I'm doing things, then cool, I'll do extra. Extras always sounds better than not getting it done, right? But when I'm thinking of what I'm going to get accomplished and thinking of my timelines, I'm not trying to put that work time in other things that are going to get done or may not get done. because I know, like I said, 5 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, you could double up and, do all this time management. Now I am a lot more realistic with myself. So I'll say it that way. I'm a lot more realistic with myself that you might think you're going to double up. You might think you're going to throw in extra, but it doesn't always happen that way. So that is the next thing I want you guys to think about and make sure that you don't do is don't try to create extra time. If you again have more grace with yourself and edit, fit things into the things that you can. And if you get extra done, then that's great. If you don't get it done, I don't want you to feel like, oh, I didn't get it done. And so now, end of the world, or what am I going to do now? Because now it's still a snowball. You miss one thing that you were supposed to get done, one deadline for yourself. And now that leads you into missing the next deadline for yourself, and you feel like, there's a problem. But I do, so in my planning and scheduling, so I don't create extra time, but I do set time to work. So I do say, once the kid's in bed at 9, let me, take these 2 hours. I do, just talking about the time that I actually work. Like I said, I do probably about 2-3 hours, at least 3 nights a week. Sometimes try for 4, but again, I get tired or I just get tired of just working all the time. So I at least do 2 to 3 hours 3 times a week, and one, if not both, Saturday and Sunday, I wake up super early. So like around 6-7 o'clock. I think I've talked about this on my Instagram, where I wake up like 6-7 o'clock. Starbucks opens at 6, so you guys know. So I wake up like 6-7 o'clock and go to Starbucks and work until, if I go like 7, I'll work till like 11 or 12, but I'll work until like the mid morning. And what that does for me is give me a good block of time that I can get some things done. And it usually happens when either the family still sleep, because they do sleep a tiny bit later, which is great, or the just aren't up and about just yet, and we're not missing out on any morning appointments or anything like that. Now, I know as my son gets older and he starts getting like into little leagues and swim classes, that's probably going to change a bit, because those things are usually in the morning. In that case, I would just switch it to doing it Saturday evening or Saturday night when, everybody's watching movies or something like that. I would sit and go to Starbucks or go somewhere else. I personally so if you can, I definitely would say try to get out the house. I like getting away because I'm really disconnected. I'm really disconnected from what's happening at the house and able to focus on the work. And that means when I get back to the house, I disconnect from work. So I'm not always trying to, what I like the double dutch. How back in double dutch, how you kind of rock back and forth to get into the rope. I'm not always rocking back and forth between what's happening in the house and what's happening out the house. So I'm able to do that. If I can't get out the house, then I will just close my office door and try to at least create that barrier. But I try to make the times that I'm going to work be the times that I'm going to work, and the times that I'm not going to work be with just family. Now, the other thing, so things like social media, and this isn't one of my tips, but something I wanted to throw out there. So things like social media, talking on social media, just hanging out, those are things that I will do when I'm at a practice or waiting for an appointment, or the things I'll do on the couch and that kind of stuff. That's how I stay social media engaged, is that I do those type of things in my spare time almost, or extra bit of time, not necessarily use it as one of my time blocks. The actual post, most of the posts and things like that, those are scheduled out. So I don't have to worry about that, but the actual engaging back and forth. So sometimes if I'm online, you'll see that I won't talk to people for about an hour or 2 or 3 hours, probably because I'm off doing some work sometime. And then when we are on the couch or, hanging out, or I'm in the living room, I will, that's when the time I'll be like thanking everybody like I did for the Kickstarter campaign, or do all that kind of other stuff. So being just, again, flexible with myself and trying to make sure that when I'm working, I'm working. And when I'm not working and doing family, I'm trying to be with family. But, sometimes I gray area that just a little bit. But at least when I'm working, I try to make sure that I'm working. Because if you make the time that you spend doing the work more productive, then again, you'll have just less to do, and you'll feel like less to do. You won't feel like I sat there for 2 hours and got nothing accomplished. I used to do that, and I hate that feeling. I feel like crap. I feel like I sat here for 2 hours and I've got nothing to show for it. So I had to do some tightening of the reins. That's where my to-do lists come in. If I draw a blank or don't know what to work on, I go back to my to-do list and I look at those things. I'm just going to recap some of the things that I talked about. So the first one on my list of things I do is planning and scheduling, making sure I've got everything, if not as much as possible, written out and when it's going to happen so things don't overlap. Time blocking, making sure I set specific time to do specific things so I can get in that zone and get as much done and be as productive as possible. Taking shortcuts, so like I said, using those templates, using rev.com, using Creative Market, and just using things that are going to make your job easier and faster, because, just don't believe that myth that you absolutely everything has to come through your hands. I always think, when you get big, or you think about like a Jeff Bezos or, any other major CEO, they're not the ones running their marketing campaigns, writing their copy, making their prototypes, talking to their, customers. They've got teams, they've got people doing it, and they've, along the way created different shortcuts so that what their ideas, because it is their business, it is their ideas, they still are the face of it all, but they don't have to be the ones to execute and implement every single bit of that. So I want you guys to remove that thinking now. I promise you it's going to help you as you progress in your business. Next thing, number 4, leading right up into that, is get help, whether it's a regular intern, some pro services for when you need them, one-off stuff for just getting different tasks and projects done. But don't be afraid to get help. And I didn't mention this part, but I've also seen a lot of people get help for things outside of their business. So they'll get help, like, somebody to help them clean the house, or get some meal prep done, or like we actually have a lawn guy I'm so proud of. Get a lawn guy. So you're not always rushing to do even the things outside of your business. So if your business is one that you have to do it all, then maybe you need someone to help with some of the other things so you still can free up some of that time to do some of that work. Well, next to last 5, number 5 was editing and grace. So just be willing to edit your schedule, edit your expectations of yourself, and give yourself some grace. We're all human doing this. It doesn't have to be perfect. I will tell you, every successful business, you guys can just listen to some of my past episodes, every successful business, every successful business owner had another idea, another thought in mind when they were building, creating. They thought they were going to get this done or was going to move this way. So just be gentle with yourself. Be understanding that sometimes things won't go as you need them, and you can always move forward and continue to grow from that. And number 6 was don't depend on creating time. It's probably one of the most important things I could tell you guys is, the one thing I think, if you say, well, where'd you really fail or really mess up on some things? I would really say it was thinking I could get things done in time that just wasn't there. And it really not only robbed me of the time or the thing getting done, but really stressed me out, because I would think I could get done with something in time I just didn't have to do it. And I was, double, triple booking and overlapping myself because I thought all these things were going to happen. I even stopped scheduling, telling myself I was going to do so much when I take flights or even take trips, because I generally get on the plane. I'm a little afraid to fly, a lot afraid, okay? So I have to go through that. I have to come up, I have to come down. Sometimes because I'm so afraid, I may just take a nap and, telling myself, oh, I'm going to get this book read while I'm on this flight, or, oh, I'm going to catch up on all my emails while I'm on my flight, or when I'm at the airport. I did that just when I went to, was it New Orleans? Yes, New Orleans. Actually, I did. So it was New Orleans. I just knew I was going to get all of this stuff done when I got to the airport. You got that little bit of hour and a half time. Well, as usual, I was running late to the airport to begin with. So that went my time. Then I was in the wrong terminal. EWR, here where I live, is 3 different terminals. And sometimes your airline will be at one terminal and they'll say, oh yeah, like you'll come to terminal C, which is what happened. I came to Terminal C and they were like, oh yeah, your flight's leaving out of Terminal B. So, you're hightailing it on the monorail to get to the next terminal. So that killed some of my time. Then there was a really long TSA line, and that killed some of my time. So by the end of it all, I was pretty much doing the OJ run through the airport to even make the flight. So all of that time I thought I was going to get something done, nothing got done that time. And, as a result, once I got off the plane and there was some delays and stuff, I went right into what I was going to New Orleans for, and some work just never got, like a whole week, it just never got done because that time just wasn't there. And that was partly my fault for trying to make time that was not there. It was not available. I should have said, okay, this is my travel time and blocked it out completely. So either way, that was my number 6. Don't depend on creating time that just really might not be there, really just isn't there. Try to be realistic with yourself when you're setting your time and your expectations. So that's what I want to talk about this episode. Just a couple of ways, things that I do and that have helped me to run my business in just a couple of hours a day or a couple of hours a week. Things that have helped me and things that, as you can see, as you can hear, I've grown, I've learned over the time. Like, again, if I would have known some of this stuff years ago, I probably would have got more done, but that's cool. We're going to, with grace, be okay that certain things just did not get done. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, if you're listening September, head on over to My SEO Workbook.com and check out the Kickstarter campaign. Check out the workbook. I'm really excited to get this out there to you guys. So head on over to My SEO Workbook.com and see all the fun that's happening over there. And hopefully this helps you guys out a lot. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the group or on the page, if this is helping you. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Online Boutiquers podcast. You can always get the show notes on our website at onlineboutiquesource.com. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, you can join us at our free Facebook community over at onlineboutiquesource.com/FB group.